see dope people. Welcome back to another episode of Dope People. I am your host, Brooklyn's favorite polymath, Hayden Green, and the purpose of the show is really, really simple. I know a bunch of dope people, and I want you to get to know a bunch of dope people, so I interview a bunch of dope people. And if you're not really familiar with the term dope, it's a kind of an old school term. It just simply means somebody that's interesting, that's really got something going on that I want to learn about. And so today, I have a really, really interesting person coming up to the stage. She is a superintendent of a district here in the New York City school system. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Celeste Terry. Hey, Celeste, what's going on?
Hey.
Thank you for coming on the show. It's always so good to have teachers on the show.
I love it, and I'm so excited to be a guest on the show. I feel important.
That's because you are important.
Thank you. I'm dope.
So let's we do a kind of like a litmus test with everybody, and I want to get a sense of how you understand dope and what you're thinking a dope person may be. Who is the dopest person that you know or have met at some point in time?
The dopest person I know is my little sister, Raze Theron. And the reason why I call her dope is that she lives fearlessly. She is a professor of civil engineering in Austin, Texas. She was the first Black woman to get tenure. Can you imagine? First Black in anything, but first Black woman to get tenure in civil engineering at University of Austin. She lived for a year in Spain, took both her children and her husband last year, and decided, you know what? I truly want my kids to be bilingual. We're going to live in Spain. I'm going to teach engineering down there. They're going to go to schools there. She's just fearless and has always been. And she's my little sister. And she's taught me a lot of just about putting out there what you want to do and doing it. And no matter what, just live your life to the fullest.
I am always a fan of people who take those leaps of faith and it's like, where will the world take me? I used to live my life like that. And then,
kids, marriage. But you want to hear something funny? My sister reminds me of your wife, Aisha. They're born both April. They're both the same age, and they both are very I think of Aisha and I think of my sister. Like they're just two dope, fly women who just do what they need to do.
You need to tell her that a little bit more. I've been trying to get her on the show. She won't come on.
She got to be on the show because she's dope.
I agree. I totally agree. Well, thank you for that. And well, then let me tell you what I think that you're doing, that you did, that has been dope. As I mentioned, you are a superintendent for the 18th district, the 18th educational district in the New York City school system. And that's a heavy job. That's a job where making sure that everybody is up to standards, that there's a lot of things going on, and that everybody is compliant. And that's not easy to do, especially in New York City. But what is not what's not obvious about it is that you came into that role in 2021, right? 2021. And that's right when our students were coming back to in-person learning.
Yep.
And that's has to be one of the hardest things anybody has done. I mean, it's unprecedented, right? Well, we haven't seen that level of a pandemic, for 100 years. And then now coming into one of the largest school systems and a large school district, and you're in Canarsie, right?
Yeah.
And so really being able to guide our students into the next phase of their learning, the next way of understanding learning, because they've been doing it online for all this time. Plus, we had an immigrant surge in our city where we now had students in our classrooms who did not speak English, right? And so being able to juxtapose all of that and still have a high graduation rate. I looked up your numbers and they're among the highest in all of the districts. And so that for me is dope. And standing in the gap for all of those students and making sure that those students, those teachers, and those schools were all able to be successful going forward in a very, very difficult time, I think is one of the dopest things about it.
Thank you. And one thing your listeners might not know is that I live in the neighborhood that
Mm.
I serve in, and I was born in this neighborhood. So lots of my neighbors, my friends, my godchildren go to my school. So when I open those classroom doors, I see my babies, and I truly mean I see my babies. And so, it's amazing to be able to be a superintendent in the neighborhood you live and grew up in.
That is absolutely amazing, and you're right. It at that point in time, it's family, right? Like you are.
Family.
Right, you're making, and that's the old school way of the way that schools used to build communities. Your community schools where everybody went and everybody grew, and all of the teachers were a part of that community, and therefore had a vested interest in the progress of all of these children that they see in school, but then they see them at church and they see them in the grocery store,
Exactly.
and then you see them everywhere else. And so I really, that's really admirable that that's happening in that district. All right. Well, so we're going to take a quick break. And then when we come back, we will find out what dope thing you were doing. I can't wait to hear it.
I'm ready to hear about this. All
All
right.
right. We'll be right back. And we are back with our episode of Dope People. Again, I'm your host, Hayden Green, Brooklyn's favorite polymath. I don't know about the Bronx and Manhattan and all the rest of them, but Brooklyn, you're stuck with me. All right, today we have Celeste Terry, who is a superintendent in the school system and really just an all-around dope people. Today, I got my old school camera on because I'm old school, but Celeste is doing some real educational excellence in the old school way. So I feel like it was necessary to put that on. So Celeste, welcome back to the stage.
Yes.
So I want to know, what dope thing are you doing now? It could be something that you do on a regular basis, like I volunteer with my sorority every weekend, or it could be that one time where I sat down with a child that really needed me and guided them through it, and now that person is the president of a university somewhere. It could be anything.
Can I
What
tell
dope
two
thing are
dope
you doing?
things? Can I do two? Two? Will you let me do
Sure,
two?
absolutely. It's your world. I'm just a squirrel in the.
I think the number one dope thing that I'm just really proud about and excited about is that I got to to be like a keynote speaker at the Robin Hood Foundation, right? And the reason why that was so dope was that, first of all, I got to share the story about District 18 and just the impact that we've had. But I also got our district got a big donation from Robin Hood to support professional learning in our schools. And I feel like it's dope because I really worked hard to make sure that people saw District 18. The thing is, District 18 is not District 16. We're not like cool and sexy like Bed-Stuy, right?
Right.
We not do or die like Brownsville's never ran, never will. That's not us, right? So Canarsie, we're nice West Indian neighborhood, got some jerk chicken, rice and peas. That's us, right? So we're not really that known. So for Robin Hood to like really see us, shout us out, and then give money to the DOE to be used to support my schools, my teachers, my children, that's dope, right?
That is dope. And for those people who don't know, Robinhood is a venture capitalist, angel investors who are looking for good causes, but they don't just give it to anybody. You've got to really come up with a good reason while they'll invest in your project. So you're right. I think that's
It was
absolutely dope.
crazy, Hayden. I was sitting around all these investors and I was just like, wow, we're really going to do this. So I was excited about that. Second dope thing that I'm doing is, Hayden, I wish someone had told me when I was a teacher in Bedford Stuyvesant and the house across the street was like 120 something thousand, 150, right? I just wasn't thinking like that, right? But I want our youngsters to be thinking like that. So I have a partnership with Goal Setter. She's a Sora, Tanya. And what she's doing and what we're going to be bringing to all D18 schools is that we're bringing financial literacy as early as our elementary students. So we want our kids investing. We want them thinking about businesses. We're talking about real estate. And I'm excited about that because I think we're going to build a generation that can build wealth faster than where we're building wealth, right? And the reason why I'm more excited about that is I think lots of times being from the West Indies, my mother was like, buy a house and that's your biggest thing. But there's other ways to make money. And we're teaching our students about that. So I'm really excited about that. I'm excited about the partnership with Goal Setter. I'm excited about the work that we will continue to do with our students so that they understand money, how to make money, how to grow money, and so that they can take care of us, right? And so That's two dope things that I think I'm really proud of.
Listen, if they're setting themselves up so that they can take care of us, I'm all for it. Somebody needs
I
to
know
take
you
care of
want
that.
little Hayden to be. I know you want Hayden and Clark to be taking care of you, right? So
Oh
that's how
yeah,
I want.
absolutely. And I think what you're doing is really really important, because one of the things about generational wealth is that when you see it and it becomes normalized, it isn't this specter that you have to like try to achieve or get to or have all these obstacles to. When you demystify what the process is and you demystify all the different ways that you can earn money and making money earn for you, it becomes a little bit easier. So it's not this whole house on a hill kind of like
Exactly.
far away kind of thing. Is really accessible to people. And Gold Setter is amazing. One of your Delta Sorors
Yes.
is also we our children also participate in
Oh,
Gold Setter as
good.
well. So and I see them like they do a little bit of a quiz and then they get some
Yes.
money for doing the
Yes.
quiz. But it really gives them an understanding of how money works. And these kids, they don't understand money. It's like they think that the cost of a pack of gum is pretty much the same cost as a whole meal, or that all of these things that they ask for, the money just comes out of nowhere and all of a sudden it gets paid for. And really giving them a sense of, here's how much time I have to work in order to earn this amount of money,
Exactly.
and therefore this is how much it is worth to me. I think is a really important lesson that kids need to learn a lot earlier.
And
And what you pointed out, even professionals not understanding how you take your money and then invest it, so that
exactly.
buying a house doesn't seem like this far away thing. It's something that you can really start to put away stuff really early.
I went to Howard's homecoming last weekend, right? And my dorm no longer exists because it's been turned into high-rise apartments, right? And I kept remembering when I was at Howard, homes going for $5,000 that now are worth 2.5 million. And if I had taken a student loan, what that house, where I would be, right? But we I wasn't thinking like that. And I think a lot of us aren't thinking like that because we base wealth on luck. Like you're lucky to know this or lucky to know that.
Yep,
Where
yep,
other people base wealth on the fact that, you know what, they know it's going to be successful because they have the connections and they know the people. And so I want my babies to know that you don't need luck. It will be successful once you know about your money and you make these connections. And so that's what I'm really like proud about. And that's what I feel like that's dope.
yep. I agree. I think that's a really dope thing to bring to these students, and I thank you for doing the work out there in District 18, and hopefully it becomes a base model for the rest of the districts, and each one teach one.
I love it.
Well, Celeste, like I said, we end up each show with a dope moment in history, and we're talking about education. So I have to, I dug into the crates to find a moment in history. The the first person the first African American or formerly enslaved person to go to college. His name was John Chavez. And he went to what is now Washington and Lee University out in Lexington, Virginia. Uh, but question: when did he attend Washington and Lee? And it wasn't Washington and Lee back then. I forget what the name of it was. What year do you think that was?
I'm going to say 1898.
1898, and you would be 99 years off. It was 1799 was the first person to go. And right. And so the look on your face was like, well, yeah, there wasn't freedom back then. But
Yeah.
right, there were people who either had bought their freedom, or were allowed by their enslavers to go to college, or things along this, or so if we think about the Frederick Douglasses
Yeah.
and all the people that were formerly enslaved and were allowed to go to college, all of that started a lot earlier than we normally conceptualize
Yeah.
that, right? And so 1799 was the first time that a formerly enslaved person was allowed to go to a college in the United States of America.
That's a dope fact. And I got to write that down because I was like, okay, when did the Civil War end? Like I was sitting there that's dope.
Yep, 1799. Really, really early. So I wanna thank you for being on the show, Celeste. If people are looking for you and they want to donate some more money to your school district, or they just want to get in contact with you, how would they find you?
I mean, you can email me cdougla22 at schools.nyc.gov. And let me spell that CDOUGLA 22 at schools.nyc.gov. Or talk to Hayden. He always knows where to find me.
Yeah, yep. All we gotta do is put out the smoke signals, and we know where to get the
Exactly.
Celeste.
Exactly.
All right. So thank you so much for being on here. For those of you who are watching, please subscribe, like, save, share, do all the things with the podcast. And of course, if you know somebody who is a dope person that should be on this show, please get in contact with us and we will get them on as soon as possible. But until then, have a great week. Go forth and be dope. See y'all.